All right, I have started welding. I've got, you know, one or two clamps up there. Just make sure it's in place. But yeah, I've got this tacked here. Got it tacked there. This is pretty much where I want it. It's gonna be. It's as close as I can get it to what it needs to be. Let's put it that way. So plan is I'll start getting some of this welded in here, some of this welded over here, and up in here. The last things I will do is the very bottom down here, because that actually has to tuck in, and it kind of is bent a little bit too much like that. So I got to pull this up, and then this back corner down here, has the same issue. It's just folded out a little bit, so I need to, work with it and make it all go up in there where it needs to go. Not that big a deal. So you see there, I'm pretty much ready to start welding that. Now, let me set up here in just a second. I'll show you guys how I like to clean these out here. I know some people have issue with, like, if you have primer back there, the weld through primer. A lot of people like to cover everything weld through primer, then try to just weld through. Oh, that just doesn't work well. But I'll show you how I clean that out. I got a couple different ways. Okay, well, so this is three ways that I like to do it. One, I will use this little, blasting gun, and basically just kind of go up, and I will just blast, the area in the hole and the surrounding area. You get it perfectly clean. That works in areas like this. Not a big deal. You're worried about anything. And I have a shield that goes over top that I've made. And also sometimes you just hold your hand over it. Put your hand up like this with a glove on, go between them. Yeah, it's fine. Another way is to use one of these little guys, just typical little Dremel wire brush. That works pretty good. Another air tool way is with a little die grinder, and use these little sanding rolls. And this is not really the way it's meant to be used, but use those and essentially just use it on end, and go in there and it works pretty good. I've also used a chisel, sharpened chisel screwdrivers, and actually gotten in here and just scraped off paint to do it. Now this is epoxy primer. This is not weld through, so you definitely have to remove it. But yeah, that's all it takes. Any one of those methods works. Some quicker, some better than others. I like the blasting when I can do it. If I can't, I generally will do the wire brush or the sanding roll. A lot of times the wire brush works really good. It's a little slower sometimes, and you tend to go through those brushes pretty quick. But you can just kind of get in there and just with something and just scrape it out if you want to. It works. But yeah, I'm gonna go out and do a oil pressure switch and a PT Cruiser, and come back in here and start welding this on. Okay, well, a little bit of update here. As you can see, there's quite a bit fewer clamps holding up underneath there. I've gotten most of this, weld here and there, enough to hold it in place. Got the tail welded on up back here. Start off with a couple tacks, got it welded on. Well, in place anyway. I'll still have to go back and finish them up. One thing I wanted to mention was, when you use the self-drilling screws, they tend to strip out, and they're basically a number 6. When they strip out, replace them with a machine screw, and just use one of these little guys right here. It just drills the hole. You can actually use this to drill a hole, thread it, and countersink it all at the same time if you want, or to deburr it. And just, after it strips out, just tap it, thread it with the number 8, and then use the number 8 in there. And works into thicker metal. It holds better than the self-drilling screws, actually. But anyway, yeah, getting that into place there. Over here, the same thing here. Got a couple welds, that's what it's supposed to look like, Then the clamps get in the way, while you're doing it. And yeah, then if you clamps get in the way, and it's like, you don't know if you got all the curve, and you grind off, redo it. But like this here, this one actually, this had a screw. This had a screw in it as well. And what I'll do is I'll weld most of it up, let it freeze for just a second, and then come in and finish it. That way it doesn't just, you know, bubble through the backside. Pretty happy with the alignment. I know Grease Rookie is having a heck of a time with his, but this one's lining up a little better here. I don't know how much of that you guys can actually see. But well, I still have to push this. That still has to go down a little bit, you know. But it's not bad. I'm gonna get you from the other side. So can't accuse me from trying to hide something. But yeah, it lines up pretty well. I do have a little bit of a difference here. Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah, it's pretty good. I really can't complain. It's lining up pretty good here. Not nearly as good as, again, the other side, but this side, the back end fits better. So hit or miss. Now I will mention one thing, and I talked about this before, and I know the welders are the way, but you see that gap right there. Well, that's not too bad. That'll tuck up and be fine. And I was worried about, man, you know, the other side looks really bad. I never really looked at it close enough. And you see it's huge. Well, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is a hole pre-drilled right here into that. You see how high it is. Come back over here and look at this one here, and it's quite a bit lower. And also look at where this is touching here, and you can see how far down we are from it here. So yeah, it's just it's this piece. So I'll just basically fill the holes in one of the two pieces and make it fit when I get to that point, and it should tuck up and line up fine, because I even measured it. Because you can even look at the spacing here to here and then there to there, and you measure it, and it's from underneath here, it's way lower on that side than it is on this side. So easy enough fix when I get to that point. One other thing that I did want to mention, and I've already done on the other side, is, you know, when you get this all done here and you get this welded up, put tape over it, because, you know, if you're out here in the shop, you're working on stuff, especially if you're blasting, you know, you'll get abrasive that'll sit down in here, just dust, dirt, grime, anything. You don't want anything in there before you get it seam sealed. And, you know, everybody's like, you know, that's not even going to happen until you even think about paint. So yeah, well, after you're done, after you get this all welded up, put some tape over it. That way, you know, you don't want the tape on it while you're working out your heights. But yeah, after you get it welded, put some tape over it. Keep the gunk out of there, because you don't want stuff getting in there and then you can't get it all out. You put seam sealer over top of it, and that stuff is just kind of, you know, every time that joint moves, it's moving around, grinding. You just don't want, you know, garbage in there. But anyway, that's kind of where we're at. I'm just going to keep piddling along at it. I'm going to get the rest of most of this welded in, I think. And then and I'll make another episode where I'll discuss, I'll show this being welded in, because this is a little different, because this has to be welded twice almost in a way. So okay, well, I got most everything is in place. Everything down here, this is all welded. This is still needs a few more. That still needs to be welded at the bottom. It's pretty much welded at the back, but I'm going to work on this next. I've already gotten this pretty well lined up. I don't trust my fingers, so I trust the popsicle stick a little bit more. It's pretty close. You know, do what you can. Make it as good as you can. And it fits pretty good. But yeah, I'm going to call that good, and I'll show you from the inside how to get to that to weld it. It's not really that fun. Okay, so got that clamped up, and that's where we're going to be welding back out in that hole down in there. So what I'll do first is I will reach up in here and sandblast those out with that little handheld sandblaster, and then I'll reach up with the MIG welder and weld that into place. And the handiest thing you can have when you're welding is a MIG welder with a MIG light. You know, you could flex that around, point it wherever you want. So you can kind of, well, get the idea. Let me try this again. But you can hold that into place. Oops. You can hold that up, get that up there, bend it wherever you want. That makes a huge difference. Even when you're not in a dark spot, having that light makes things immensely easier. And you can bend it around, put it wherever you want. All right, it's in there. That one on the left I didn't like when it first came out, so I ground it off and redid it a little bit. But it's a royal pain in the butt to get in there. And we're going to have a little discussion about welding helmets and how they're not designed for actual work. They're entirely way too big. But give me a few minutes. We'll talk about that. Well, it's on. It is permanently on the car now. Everything is welded except for right across the bottom, across the top here, and the bottom piece here, which it's going to have some issues because it's just not been up in there enough. Basically, it's like they didn't pinch this area enough here. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can kind of, there's some differences, like the depth here is not the same depth, and I'll, you know, finagle it and, you know, get this in here. It's not quite right up here either, but that's not a big deal. I knew that when I was working on it, and I just wanted to get it on, and I figured, well, I'll just tie up that loose end when I get to it. This is just one of those. It's more of a get it out of the way, make it work, you know, hide it behind the valance than it is anything else. Other than that, and this seam up here turned out pretty good. You can see I got my tape on it before I even welded it, and still turned out pretty good there. You know, with my little popsicle stick, you know, and popsicle sticks we trust. So that worked out pretty good. Now to do one little bit of show and tell. You see there is a clamp down in here, so that's how I'm going to clamp. I've only got one like that, so you know. So basically, I'm going to clamp that there, and just here I've got a stick, some wedges pushing the other side. So I'll take my little sand blaster and blast these two holes here. Yeah, that one's a little high. Oh well. And blast those, weld them in, and then just repeat and move over here. Do the same thing at the other ones over here. And I'm going to get those welded up here and call it quits, I think. And because this down here is going to be fun. This up here is not that big a deal, but I do want to kind of shoot a little bit of how I clamp it, and I've got to modify my clamps again to do that, because it's really deep. It's a deep grab. I have to make my clamps a little longer. So yeah, it's almost there. Almost there. But it's on the car. It's permanent. It's just you know, fiddling now. So yeah, that's about it for now.